Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 1 waivers, which is a crazy thing. That we're to that already. We're talking waiver wire pickups before your season even starts, because there's a couple guys that are interesting. Maybe you don't have the spot in your bench right now to do it, but these are guys to keep in mind and really watch Week 1. So we're going to throw out some names that we like. This isn't the normal waiver wire episode, but we'll do that. And we have also some of your questions, a little bit of mailbag for you as well. But before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram Fantasy Football Prophet. The website's fantasyfootballprophet.com. And you go to YouTube as well, youtube.com/fantasyfootballprophet. And then also today's episode is actually brought to you by MyBookie. So MyBookie's back with us again this year, sponsoring us. They've been with us for the last couple of years, so this is a exciting time of year to do this. MyBookie, go there, get some bets in for this weekend Thursday night. It's crazy. I still can't believe it's 2 days away, Jeff. 2 days away. You should go to MyBookie, use that promo code PROPHET, PROPHET, and they will double your first deposit if you do that. And new players can get up to $1,000 in free play by doing that. So go check them out. Go to MyBookie. Use that promo code. Get in on the Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs opening game, because it's nothing better than NFL season, and I can't believe it's actually here. So once again, mybookie.com. Use that promo code PROPHET, and let's just jump into. We'll do some quick waiver wire stuff and throw out some names here. And the way we do waiver wire is, if you listen to us in the past, we basically take people that are under 40% owned on ESPN leagues, and we only consider them because, once it gets above that, in a lot of leagues, they're gone. We don't want to sit and talk about guys that you have no chance to pick up. And even some of these guys, you might be able to say, they're probably, they're already rostered. But we'll keep it at 40%. Hopefully there's some names out there that you can look at. So I'm going to throw out some running backs first. Let's go running back wise, because I actually think there's some interesting names out there. So some of these guys maybe could contribute right now, and a lot of it's just to watch out for. So the ones I guess you can say that can, who knows? It's the Jacksonville situation. How about I start with that? They said they've named James Robinson as their starter, and you got Divine Ozigbo as well there, and Chris Thompson, but I think he's owned in, I don't remember what his percentage is, just over 40.
So he's at 41, so we could lump him into this.
Yeah, and Thompson's going to be the safer route. I think he's going to have a role, and they could be behind a lot. I don't think this team's any good, and their defense is terrible. What happened to them? They were like a half away from the Super Bowl a couple years ago. The terrible mismanagement there. But here's the thing. I guess if you're in a pinch, which I don't think you should be yet, so hopefully you're not, there's no reason to play any of these guys right now. Chris Thompson's He is the interesting one. Let's see how that plays out. But Robinson and then Ozigbo? I don't know what they are, and sometimes I think we chase what we think is volume, and all volume's good, right? All opportunity is good, but it's not. Miami Dolphins situation last year wasn't that. Was Kalen Ballage at the beginning of last year? They traded away Drake at some point. There was Patrick Laird. I don't even remember anymore who else was there. It ended up being terrible. Nobody worked out, and that's what happens a lot. Is you think this is gonna. Someone has to be the guy, right? Someone has to be good, but it doesn't always work that way. And maybe we're wrong. We don't know anything about James Robinson. We don't really know too much about Ozigbo. What do you do? I just can't recommend it right now. If you have a spot on your bench, you throw him there and see.
Yeah, if you're hurting for running back, which is quite possible, and you're just like, well, let me take a shot at one of these guys. I don't think he's going to be a stud by any means, but I would have to say that Chris Thompson, if we're talking about that, 41%, so I'll still mention, obviously, talk about him, which you just did, but I do think that they're going to be not a very good team, right? And if you're going to do that, even Fournette couldn't really get it going too much last year, even though he got a ton, but he did catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. If he's not a good fit, I assume Chris Thompson is going to be the guy that gets a lot more work than the other guys, and it's going to be mostly because he's going to be catching the ball because they're going to be down. Same reason I like kind of DJ Chark that much more this year is because when you look at what they're going to have to do in order to be competitive, they're going to have to sling the ball. So
yep.
I don't know. If you're going to take one and he's still available, I do like the upside of Chris Thompson. Maybe he is, maybe he's going to be the guy. I have a really hard time believing that it's going to be any one of the other three. And was it Armstead is going to be the third guy when he comes back from injury?
Yep.
I don't know. I have a hard time endorsing any of those guys. I don't think even if they were pretty good running backs, I don't think that they're in a situation where they could flourish.
No. And Fournette, even when he was going to be the guy, the situation what bothered us too. So I would stay, maybe keep an eye on to see what happens this weekend, but don't play anything this week. Absolutely. I mean, you'd have to be in a deep league to do this. So just no need. So some other guys that, I mean, the rest of these guys are now just guys to just keep an eye on that we kind of liked. Like you got Bryce Love, who will he get an opportunity? Maybe. J.D. McKissick was named the starter. I know J.D. McKissick's down here too, but I don't buy into any of that J.D. McKissick stuff. I wouldn't pick him up for any reason, just because it's going to be what I think their best option is going to be a combination of hope for them. This is what I would want to find out these young guys. It's going to be a Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson combination. And Antonio Gibson's never been a workhorse at all. He's been basically a wide receiver as well. So Bryce Love can be a workhorse. I think it'll be a combination of if Bryce Love's healthy. So I would keep an eye on Bryce Love. I've liked Bryce Love for a few years now.
Yeah, I think he's a much better lottery ticket type of player.
Yep.
If you're just looking that you grabbed a few guys on your bench, you're like, I don't know why I have them. They're never going to start. He does have a lot more upside. I like him a lot.
Yeah, and he's, I think, it could happen, lottery ticket. It's actually there's a little bit more of a chance. Another one, Joshua Kelly. I think he's interesting over in for the Chargers. From what it sounds like he has passed. Just from reports, it seems like he's ahead of Justin Jackson, which if he is, he's in a pretty good role because, Austin Eckler, we just don't know how they're going to use him yet. And you just really don't see a scenario where Austin Eckler is getting 20 carries a game, right? That just doesn't seem to play out in my mind. Eckler will be all over the field, but there's going to be room for some other carries, and maybe it's Josh Kelly. So just want to keep an eye on. You can roster him if you have the deep enough bench. Chase Edmonds, I think that's another one. I would actually say Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin, both from the Cardinals, just because Drake has been in that walking boot, and we just don't know the situation yet. So those are another guys to keep an eye on. Anthony McFarlane, I would say. Jeff, that's only about that's a James Conner injury away, though.
Yeah, that one's less.
That's later on. Just that's really probably if it happens, it's gonna happen later. That's a hold and stash on your bench if you have some room. And trying to think if there's any. What I'm also interested in for some reason, just the 49ers backfield. I want to see if Jerick McKinnon gets any play here. There's been some decent reports about McKinnon, and I'm actually very, very curious if he will get some kind of a shot to see if he can still play. So he's actually 17% owned. It's actually higher than I had expected from McKinnon, but that's an interesting one to me. I'm really curious if they give him a shot.
They put quite a bit of money when they originally got him before they knew that they had all these other talented backs and he got hurt. You would think that you would give him one shot, and if for no other reason, to at least have another piece that you can trade. Like if you don't think that you're going to pay him, So yeah, they have all the incentive in the world to give him a shot.
Yep. Any other running backs you see out there that I missed?
No,
the rest of the names, I just don't feel like there's a terribly large upside for me right now.
No, I don't either. I could make I'm not going to go down that road. Those are guys that I would be like, they would be the first ones. And let's be honest, like even those guys, you're kind of like, do you get them a week earlier in case that they do something this Sunday and, they become more valuable? That would be the question. And that if you do have a roster spot open, we all know that you have an older player that you don't really need that you probably put on there. I would much rather have like a Bryce Love and then, and you have at least trade bait or something like that. Like if he gets a few carries and looks good, everyone will want him.
Yep.
And that's kind of that's where we're going with this one.
Funny thing is looking through this list, and Lynn Bowden Jr. was traded to the Dolphins over the weekend. Which is
already, huh?
Really random for a third-round pick to be traded that early. He's listed as a running back yet, but it sounds like they're going to use him more as a wide receiver. So that's interesting play. Just weird that a third-round pick got traded. He thought he was an interesting, athletic guy. So maybe it just wasn't translating.
Did they say what they got for him?
No, I didn't see that, but it's just an odd.
That's a strange one. Also, why I don't have a whole lot of faith in Las Vegas. But
interesting, right?
Yeah.
All right. So wide receivers. So there are actually some, I think, good wide receivers here under that 40% mark. So right at the top, I think like Anthony Miller is only 38% owned, and I'm interested in Anthony Miller. He played well towards the end of last year. And Trubisky's still his quarterback. Trubisky's an interesting one where Trubisky might not be great, but fantasy-wise, I still think he's okay. So Anthony Miller, I think, might get a shot. Anthony Miller, there's a lot of names right here. Anthony Miller. Paris Campbell, I'm actually interested to see if he can do something in the second year. Not as much as maybe like Alan Lazard, though, who's only 25% owned. Lazard, he's going to be that number 2 there. Got Lazard. Then you get the rookies as well. I know Jalen Reagor's hurt right now, but he could be back by week 2, possibly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you already see right now on ESPN, he already's gone down by 18% owned.
Yeah.
I think that one's a little weird. Like, you would really have to need that extra spot, because you're not drafting him in order to put him in your starting lineup. So why wouldn't you give him the opportunity to? He might be the number 1 wide receiver come halfway through the season, because that's how bad Philly's wide receivers are at the moment, and older. So injuries, you assume, is going to happen at some point.
Well, it's the same
He'll be
thing
on the
with
field a lot.
The same thing with Brandon Ayuk. So both of those guys, just because they're hurt, their percentage owned has probably gone way down, and people are kind of overlooking them. But you don't need to worry about injury too much at the beginning of the year, because I don't think you weren't drafting these guys to play them in week 1 or 2 to begin with. You really weren't. I mean, what happened to Odell Beckham? A couple of years ago, he was hurt to start the year, and no one drafted him. And I think sometimes you have spots on the bench at the beginning of the year. There's no bye weeks right now. You can throw a guy in there, and maybe he comes back in a couple of weeks and is good. So, I would save room on my bench for these rookies and see what they can become. Ayuk, Reagor, he's down here. Pittman's down here yet. Even T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, those kind of guys, Chase Claypool, Brian Edwards, those are the players. The beginning of the year, I want them stashed on my bench. And somebody could break out from that.
Yeah. And right now, I mean, I know he might not be ready for week 1, but I want to go back to Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Because he is right now, as far as I know, he's the number 1 wide receiver on the team because Deebo Samuels is hurt. And maybe he's not ready to be thrust in that position. I know they don't throw a lot, but they have to throw a little bit. And if you're going to force feed the ball to someone, even if you're going to get a few catches a game,
I mean, you can't just throw to Kittle, right?
Yeah.
It can't all go to Kittle.
I think it's crazy. Like, if you look at that, Deebo is the only other guy we really know. Other than that, I mean,
we'll see if Ayuk plays week. He's listed as questionable. So,
but still, I mean, obviously he's done enough to garner, the idea that, hey, he's going to be on the field if he's healthy. I would, you got to give him a week.
Yep. And I would even slightly deeper, but I'd keep an eye on the Rams and see if Van Jefferson plays.
Yeah, I like that one too.
So this is the time of year to me. It's these rookies that someone is going to become worthwhile out of these rookies. It always happens. But trying to pick who that is right. The difficult part. But other than the rookies, I don't necessarily love a lot of it. But for some reason, in this weird way, I keep holding out hope for Corey Davis. I know it's a big long shot. I don't know why I do that. But, he's still going to be a starter, but absolutely no one's picking him. So that's an interesting one to watch out for. Any other names here that you're looking at, that non-rookie names maybe?
Non-rookie.
Off
the cuff, I just have to bring this up. This is actually, I haven't even verified this yet, but from someone that has been reading a lot of Chicago news or whatever, so we all know who that is. Yeah. But Cordero Patterson, because of Montgomery going down, they were talking about lining him up in the backfield. Do I really believe that it's going to be worthwhile? No, but he is a good athlete. They desperately need help everywhere, on that team. So maybe that's something interesting. Would I put him on my team? No. I mean, it's well, but
I can see this scenario where Randall Cobb has a good game week 1, the Thursday night, just because it's really it's Cooks and Cobb and Fuller, and maybe Cobb does something, and I can see people picking him up, but I just don't know if that's going to be something that could last. But we'll see. But all right, tight end wise. So tight end.
Oh, hold it. There was one more.
One more. You got one more.
And we don't officially know this either, but Josh Gordon. I just have to bring up his name. He has been signed by Seahawks. He hasn't officially been reinstated by the NFL. We don't know how long that's going to take. But on that team, you do have obviously Lockett and Metcalf already. But he could still be pretty good. And I guarantee as soon as he's reinstated, people will give him a shot. So if you do have a bench spot open, you desperately need a upside wide receiver, he might be an interesting guy to look at.
All right. Tight end wise, Dallas Goddard, I think, needs to be owned. I think he's way down there. 26%. I think you can actually play Dallas Goddard even with Ertz there, especially week 1. I think you can definitely play him against the Redskins. Why not? So Goddard's an interesting one to me where I think he just needs to be owned. And 26%, and I'd find a spot for Goddard on my bench if you don't have a strong tight end one where he could become that.
And I've done this on many of my teams actually, where I don't go high on a tight end because obviously you have to pay a lot in order to get Kittle or Kelsey or something of that nature. But so I can get someone much lower, and then I get Dallas Goddard at the last spot on my team, which you can still do now by picking them up. And the truth about Dallas Goddard is he is a golden handcuff, which is a very unusual thing for a tight end.
Very rare.
If Ertz goes down, he is going to be worth his weight in gold. Mm-hmm. I think he's playable anyway, even with him, because he finished 10th last year as tight end, even with Ertz being healthy. And now they have less help in the wide receiver. Rager is hurt. Alshon Jeffrey has been banged up the whole time. Deshaun Jackson is just not that guy where you're going to give him a bulk. So who is going to be the number 1 and number 2 wide receiver, really, like pass catchers on that team? It's going to be Ertz and it's going to be Dallas Goddard. I mean, that and then following Miles Sanders, those could be the 3 biggest reception players that they have on that team. So I'm a big believer that Dallas Goddard, find out how this shakes out, but he could be in for a huge an improvement on his workload, because Ertz already gets 150 looks a year. Dallas Goddard, his numbers actually could still go up. So I really like him too. Like, he could be a strange one where a tight end 2 actually becomes, the 7th tight end, even if the number 1 doesn't get hurt. Yep. It's a strange one, but I totally agree with you.
All right. Let's see what else. Jonu Smith. I think he's one to look at to have on your team. Blake Jarwin. There's some interesting tight end names down here. And you know what? It pains me to say this, but Eric Ebron, maybe there's something there. We'll see. I mean, if Roethlisberger likes him, he could become a red zone target. I mean, we know Ebron is a talented player who has, other than in the red zone in 2018 with Andrew Luck as his quarterback, he hasn't put it together. But that's pretty much all he ever did was in the red zone that year. He was great, right? Other than that, he just hasn't been, reliable, right? So, and you know what? I'm not completely done with OJ Howard yet either. Just keep an eye, see if Brady, and we really wish we had some preseason stuff to, see how things were looking.
I don't think he's going to light the world on fire. But I'm just saying, like, if I was going to get a guy, like, if you were here, we'll put it this way. If you were going to get one guy right now in order to play, say, this week, for whatever reason, like someone you could actually plug and play right now, who would it be? And then if you were going to stash a guy to see, let's see how he's going to be used for the next 2 weeks or whatever, who would that be?
So I think I play Goddard. I think I do, because the wide receiver situation is really poor there.
Right.
And I think he's going to play no matter what. So I think Goddard's that. Honestly, I do think OJ Howard's my stash. I'm very just interested in if he can play and how it pans out for him. If he still has something left in him. Which still has something left. He's young. He can have something left with him. Does Brady see something there? So
I have to ask you, Greg Olsen.
Yeah,
we just don't know, right?
I don't know, and I don't know how much upside there can be. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's some, but how much really is there?
Yeah.
It's
I think the only other guy with upside that I would not pick him up right now, but I think that he has enough athleticism that I liked him last year. I just don't know if he'll get enough receptions this year, but Irv Smith Jr. is still a very interesting player to me. And with Justin Jefferson being a rookie, even though I think he'll be very adequate, and I think he'll be one of the rookies that actually does have a good amount of production, doesn't mean he's going to break out and be like Odell back in the day. But I think he'll do fine. It might open an avenue where they throw him a few more balls, because a lot of guys are going to be doubling down on Thielen until you prove otherwise. So I think that might be an interesting something that could come about as well. But I would obviously go to the other guys first.
All right. A couple quick questions here. I'm just going to, let's see. Where did that one go? Got a trade question here. All right.
Trade question already.
Tyler had a quick question here. He says, I have Zeke on my team. Do I trade Keenan Allen for Tyler Boyd and Tony Pollard to grab Zeke's handcuff? So would you trade Keenan Allen for Tyler Boyd and Tony Pollard? I still think I like Keenan too much.
Yeah,
I have a hard time downgrading at wide receiver. I mean, not everyone's completely on board with saying that's a big downgrade because people do like Tyler Boyd. I like Keenan Allen a lot more yet. The ranks aren't terribly far off, but I don't think I want to downgrade at any point to get a handcuff. I don't mind having a handcuff, especially Pollard. Believe me, I get it. I have that situation and I have Pollard, but I don't think I'm going to downgrade anywhere to get a handcuff.
I wouldn't either. And I think Keenan Allen, I mean, in my mind, I have serious worries about what kind of numbers he's going to get as far as targets compared to when he had Rivers. But at the same time, I think even less of Boyd. I think that both of those guys are a little scary, and I like Keenan Allen better. And I agree with you, Craig, when you say, I don't think this is the time to take your chips off the table. I think there'll be more opportunities to possibly get Tony Pollard as long as Zeke doesn't get hurt in the first couple of weeks, which I can't predict that, but I highly doubt it.
Another trade here. He would trade away DeAndre Hopkins and Mark Andrews to get Tyreek Hill. No. It's too much. I had Hill slightly ranked higher than Hopkins, but again, you're giving up too much there. Andrews he's the third or fourth best tight end, however you want to, which way you want to put it. He's right there. So, all right, let's see here. Oh, wow. An IDP question. So this would be tough. I don't know if we're qualified to answer this one. Should I trade Miles Sanders, James White, Will Fuller, and J.J. Watt? Throws you off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
For Christian McCaffrey. So just like when you're thinking about it, yeah, I'm going to do that to get McCaffrey. I don't know how much Watt's going to help you. I honestly don't. I just don't have a great. They do have Joey Bosa at defensive line, so pretty decent stack there. I'd just say I would probably do it.
Who's Miles Sanders and Fuller and Watt and who else? There was one more guy, right?
Miles Sanders, James White, Fuller, and Watt. So he already has Zeke, David Johnson, David Montgomery. So he would get to play Zeke and Christian McCaffrey. And at wide receiver, he has DJ Moore, DJ Chark, and Beckham. I'd do it.
I would too. I really, really like Miles Sanders, but dude, Christian McCaffrey is on a different planet than those other guys. So yeah, I would do it.
I mean,
as you're getting rid of a lot of players, it's a weird,
It's again, I'm not really qualified for.
It's a lopsided trade
for IDP
weird,
here. Yeah. I'm just, I'm not. I'm sorry. Oh man, we should play some IDP. How about that? Is that too much for you?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Would you trade Tyreek Hill for Derrick Henry? I'm loaded at wide receiver, by the way. I mean, I would have probably drafted Derrick Henry ahead of Tyreek Hill. It's not that far up, but I'd rather have Henry. I don't love Henry.
Well, I don't mind that trade at all. I think it's a very even trade. If you need a running back and you're loaded at wide receiver, then yeah. I think that is all to do with your team need. I think that is a relatively fair trade either way.
All right, and then final question I'll do here. A lot of everything else is start, sit, quite stuff. We might throw a couple in tomorrow's episode, but this is from Christian in Germany. So one of our listeners from Germany. He has the following trade on the table. He would trade away Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Tom Brady to get Lamar Jackson, Melvin Gordon, Cooper Kupp, and I'll say no.
No, I wouldn't do that.
No, I know Lamar would be awesome to get, but you just can't trade away McCaffrey because then his running backs would end up. So his current running backs are McCaffrey, Akers, Swift, Kerryon Johnson, and then Henderson and Dillon. So he doesn't have enough depth for me. Because if you trade with McCaffrey, you're just with Gordon and Akers, and you don't want that.
No way.
It's just not strong enough there. You have to. McCaffrey is just that good. He is. He's too good to get rid of here. No, you just can't do it. Can't do it.
No,
can't do it, Christian.
Yeah, let's be quite honest. Christian McCaffrey right now is the best fantasy player.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Oh, one more here. This was from last week, Thursday. So let's see. Maybe it's still on the table, but it's another listener that emailed us in. This is Brett. He says, should I trade Raheem Mostert and Devontae Adams? So Raheem Mostert, Devontae Adams to get Todd Gurley and Stephon Diggs.
Mostert and Devontae.
Mostert and I think Adams is just too good.
For Gurley and Diggs.
It's not terrible. Like, especially, we like Gurley and Diggs better than
most people.
Most people. But I think Adams is just too good. Where to me, it's just too much.
I do have to say, it's a little more of a sure thing. Mm-hmm. I truly love Gurley. I think that this year it's quite possible he's a top 10 running back. If he doesn't get hurt in any major way and miss less than like 2 games or less, I think he's in the top 10.
Does it change your mind at all if he already has Michael Thomas? So he could go Thomas. Right now his lineup would be Thomas, Adams, AJ Green, and then his running backs are Bell, Singletary, Mostert. So he would turn that into Thomas, Green, Diggs, Gurley, Bell, Singletary. I think I want Thomas and Adams. I think that's the combination.
Oof. It is very close for me in that one because he does need a little help in running back. I don't know. Adams is such a sure thing as long as he doesn't get hurt, which is, you never know. I wobble on that one.
I think I just want I'll go with the Thomas Adams combination. But it depends on what you feel about Gurley and how much you're sold on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I would lean towards Gurley a little bit, but it definitely might be a little riskier.
There's probably more risk, but if Gurley becomes Gurley,
yeah, if I'm correct, it's the way to go. But I don't know. Wide receivers are a little easier to predict health-wise.
Feels like he has some of our guys on that team. Think about getting Gurley, but Singletary and
I would go for
AJ,
I would go for the Gurley, but that is it's a very close one.
All right, I think that's going to do it for Waiver Wire. A little bit of mailbag. And once again, thanks to MyBookie for sponsoring today's show. We'll be back tomorrow. We got some rankings talk. We got some of your comments on Instagram and some of your some flex questions that we'll get to on tomorrow's episode, our first rankings of the season. So talk to you guys tomorrow.